The governor's office and the Georgia Municipal Association, both over the last couple of weeks, have gone out of their way to urge us mayors and council people, local government officials, to really urge our citizens to take care during this particular time. The numbers, if I were to report them to you right now, with maybe one small exception, are basically all bad. Our rates are high, our cases are high, our hospital occupancy is high. That's about all you need to know. In addition to that, the numbers themselves have started to mean a little bit less at the detailed level because, for example, DeKalb County, if you don't know, has closed testing in favor of administering vaccines. And so they're devoting their human resources and other resources to administering vaccines, so the number of tests will naturally decline, but it doesn't matter. It's bad, we need to know that it's bad, and we need to know that we should be taken care of. And so the governor's office and the GMA have been urging us to urge you to remain diligent and also to get the vaccine just as soon as you become eligible. There are lots of issues with the rollout in DeKalb County and elsewhere, probably to be expected. I think we'll get it ironed out pretty quickly and learn how to manage that process a little bit better than we might have here in the very beginning. But I want to share two stories with you as my way of responding to the governor and to the GMA and urging anyone that is hearing me tonight about those two issues of taking care and of getting the vaccine as soon as possible. So the first, if you're a fan of the smash Broadway hit Hamilton, you may be a little bit familiar with. There's a character in there, a real life figure named John Lawrence from South Carolina. He was the son of a very wealthy family, highly educated. He was a close friend and colleague of Hamilton. He was passionate about American independence. He was about as close to American aristocracy as we might have had. Not only did he fight valiantly for the cause of freedom in America, he was also on the right side of history, having asked and received permission from Congress to raise a brigade of 3,000 slaves. This is in South Carolina in the 1780s. 3,000 slaves who would fight for American freedom in exchange for their own freedom at the war's successful conclusion. So in October of 1781, the Americans defeated the British at Yorktown, and it effectively, for all intents and purposes, ended the war. For all intents and purposes, but not actually. The war went on, fighting in small skirmishes in places for months, more than a year, after what we think of as the end of the war. In August of 1782, 10 months after that, Lawrence volunteered to wage an early morning attack on a small band of British soldiers who had left Charleston to forage for food in the countryside. He was granted permission to take on the mission, and on his way there, early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, he and his group were ambushed by some British soldiers, and Lawrence was killed. Some say he behaved heroically, some say he behaved a little irresponsibly, but in any event, his commanding general described the actions as sadly, quote, a paltry little skirmish, well after victory was practically in hand and only months before the formal cessation of hostilities. Fast forward to the end of World War I in 1918. On November 11th at 5 o'clock in the morning, Germany signed an armistice with the Allies that would bring the war to an end. But it didn't become effective until 11 o'clock in the morning. By the way, that was 11 a.m. on 11/11, and that's the reason we celebrate Veterans Day on November the 11th. Strangely, even though everybody involved knew the armistice had been signed, the fighting went on. The big guns, you may have seen some of this in history, the big guns continued to blast away from both sides, the small guns too. And even more inexplicable, there was an American soldier on patrol with his small unit near the Western Front. And they came across a roadblock of 2 German machine guns. When Henry Gunther, who was that soldier, saw them, he actually charged with his bayonet. Even the German soldiers tried to wave him off because they knew the armistice would be effective in a very short time. But he would not be deterred. The Germans shot him dead at 10:59 in the morning on November 11th, 1 minute before the armistice took effect, and he became, historically, the last person to die in World War I. So why do I tell you these stories? They both tell a tale of something that happened during what I call an already but not yet event. Those wars had been won. It was over with. In both cases, the fight they were fighting was effectively over, and there was no need for heroics or even extra risk-taking. What was needed was discipline and diligence. Now, we're not fighting a war, but we are fighting a very dangerous enemy. What's required for us is extra discipline and diligence. We're all still subject to being infected despite our best efforts, but with the end in sight, with a vaccine out there, with treatments improving, with us understanding better how to protect the most vulnerable among us, we need to be redoubling our effort to keep ourselves safe, but especially to keep our families, our loved ones, our colleagues at work, and others we care about safe. So, let's not let anyone in the sound of my voice tonight be the last one sickened or worse, while the end is predetermined and it's just not here yet. Let's work hard to keep ourselves safe. So, I hope that all of you, all of us will take all the care we can and get through this thing soon.